Hey everyone! Before we begin today, we'd like to thank our newest patrons, Allie and Patty. Welcome to the team. And a huge shout out to our patron Dominique, who upgraded their pledge. We are starting Mansfield Park so soon, so if you want to submit your very own study questions for us to answer on the pod, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/pod and prejudice. And now, enjoy this week's episode discussing Anne of Avenue A with the authors of Anne of Avenue A, Audrey Bellezza and Emily Harding.
This is Becca.
This is Molly.
We are here to talk about Jane Austen.
We are here specifically to talk about Anne of Avenue A.
A form of persuasion. Listeners, if you're new here, I, Becca, have read many Jane Austen novels through my life, watched many adaptations of her work, and read novels based on her work.
And I, Molly, am doing all of that for the first time through this podcast.
If you want to hear Molly read through Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, Emma, or Persuasion for the first time, you can listen to seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4 of this podcast, respectively, but that is not what we're doing here today.
No, today we are talking about Anne of Avenue A, and we are joined today by our favorite Austen adapters, the authors of this book, as well as Elizabeth of East Hampton and Emma of 83rd Street, Audrey Bellezza and Emily Harding. Hello, welcome back.
You guys, that was the sweetest opening ever. Thank you.
We're so excited that you're here.
Yay, thank you.
We are so excited. I literally was talking to Molly and over the summer. We were walking to Central Park and I was like, when is Anne of Avenue A coming out? I want to read it now. We're getting to the end of our persuasion coverage and it's time.
I literally DM'd you guys as that conversation happened. I was like, I'm DMing them right now.
And it was so crazy because it was like, I think Audrey and I have been like, oh my gosh, I wonder, because the girls because we're obviously listening to the podcast and we're like, they're reading it right now. I was like, I hope we get a DM or something. It would be great to talk to you. This is perfect.
It's almost out.
I know.
I got my copy.
Oh my God, yay!
Wait. Hold it up again.
Okay.
Everyone say cheese.
Cheese!
So, listeners, I think at this point you are familiar with our dear friends Audrey and Emily. We have covered previously their adaptations of Emma and Pride and Prejudice. Today, they are here to talk about their adaptation of Persuasion in the same universe. But before we get there, Audrey and Emily, you've come on this podcast many a time. Let's start with just refreshing our listeners on your place in the Austen space. If I left anything out when I did it for you, basically.
No, I want you guys doing our intro all the time. That was great.
Yeah, that was really accurate. So we are romance authors that have carved out this space in the Jane Austen universe. And we have done Emma, which is Emma of 83rd Street. And then we did Pride and Prejudice, which is Elizabeth of East Hampton. And now we're doing Persuasion, which is Anne of Avenue A. And I guess I could tell you what Anne of Avenue A is, our little pitch about it.
Yeah.
It's a modern take on Persuasion. And we meet Anne, who's, 30 and a New Yorker. And she reconnects with her former love, Freddie Wentworth. And because of her father's financial hardships, their apartment, which is in the East Village and is a nice penthouse, ends up they have to move, and Freddie moves into that penthouse. So there's a lot of quirky characters. Anne is still in the building. We're in the East Village. It's winter. It's just, there's the sweetest little flower shop. There's a lot of fun New York moments. There's some of our old characters revisiting, and it's a labor of love.
And that really shines through here. And I always enjoy reading your Jane Austen in New York City as a New Yorker and a Jane Austen fan. But before we dive too far into that, we, as always, are going to ask you some questions about your relationship to Jane Austen, which you've already done on the podcast several times. So we have slightly new ones, starting with, what is your current favorite piece of Austen content and why is it speaking to you right now?
I think my favorite right now, just because I've just reread it, is Lady Susan. Because she's the worst and the best. I just love her. But she's just kind of out for herself, and she does things the way she wants to do them. And I think she's fantastic. I love her.
I love that. That's the first time Lady Susan's come up on our podcast.
No, don't be. That's that we love a new insert in that we get. Everyone loves Persuasion and everyone loves Pride and Prejudice. But sometimes we'll get one where we're like, oh, fresh.
Just a woman fed up with the system is really what I'm feeling these days. So that was a good one.
Big time.
So for me, I feel like I have been in this persuasion world for a while, and I found this 1971 British miniseries, which maybe people have watched, but I had never seen, with Anne Furbank, and it was like 5 different episodes, and anyway, it was a miniseries, so I got to really kind of dive in, and I loved it. It was like masterpiece theater. It was slow. It was no one moved much. It was just adorable. I loved it. So that I'm sort of my headspace is there. I mean, I will always love, the we can just say it a million times. The BBC 1995, British Pride and Prejudice. But if you want something new, that's my new.
That is such an endorsement for a series we very heavily considered covering on this podcast and did not get to. So, listeners, maybe one day we'll make it to the 1970 miniseries adaptation of Persuasion, because we've been screaming that we need a more recent, updated miniseries of Persuasion, because the story deserves to breathe.
It
Yes,
needs
it
it.
really
It
it
needs
needs
it.
it.
Yeah.
And when I finished watching it, I just walked around like I talked like this, because everything was very fancy, like they talk so differently. So I
Mm,
thought that was kind of fun.
I love that. I feel like a lot of people have brought that one up. And also just like the older miniseries slash adaptations in general, not just of Persuasion, but like I have a box set of the Austens from I think like the 80s.
Mm.
Like it's either the 70s or the 80s. I don't know which one it is, but like don't worry, listeners. One day,
One day.
when we
One day.
run out of books, all of these are coming.
Yes.
Yeah. You're never getting rid of us. So, next question is, what is your favorite Jane Austen related memory?
Oh, I just had one. I was in Bath and my daughter told me off in front of the the Jane Austen Center. So that was great. Actually, I will say my husband took her and they went on a nice walk. But in that same moment, the Jane Austen Center in Bath is off the square where she had lived. And I was like, she had no connection to this building. But, Mr. Bennett's standing outside and I'm joking with Mr. Bennett. So me and my son went around the corner and, and I think my son, he's younger. He felt kind of bad for me that my daughter had kind of, lost her temper. And then we turn the corner and there's the house that Jane Austen lived in, but there's no blue plaque. There's nothing. I just happen to know because me and Audrey are nerds and know all this stuff. It's like, that's the number, Queen's Court, 13 Queen's Court. That's it. And the door was open. They were doing construction. And I was like, oh my God. And my son's like, give me your phone. Let me take a picture. And so I was like, okay. So he was like, and he did, God bless him. He did the full on like angles, side, mom, look this way. And so he took all these pictures and I was like, this is so lovely that he was excited. I don't think he really was that excited for it, but I was, and he was happy to support me in my excitement. So that was a new one. That just happened over the summer. So I'd say that.
That is so sweet.
Yeah. Post daughter telling off.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But it's like his excitement for you being excited is a really sweet thing. And maybe he'll be like one day getting a picture of himself in front of it too.
Oh no, no. I offered. I'm like, do you want a picture? He's like, no, that's okay, Mom. No.
Audrey, what about you?
I was gonna say when we had our release party for Emma,
That was great.
That was like
I
our
know.
really
Becca, we missed you. Yeah.
I
that
know.
was really great. But I also went to the Morgan Library and
that's right.
I saw the Jane Austen exhibit there with my mother, who, has introduced me to all of the books and everything. So she and I went, we took a million pictures. Everything was amazing. I mean, it was very tiny, but I just loved the little stories. I loved learning how much she got paid. I loved learning how she hated, whatever the Prince
The
Regent.
Prince Regent. Yeah.
I loved, that there was examples of her work. It was just kind of amazing. So that was my most recent thing.
And I appreciate that you sent me photos. I was so sick that week, and you were like, so as you're going through, you were sending me photos, and I was in bed. I'm like, oh, that's so good. I was so sick, but it looked amazing.
I think we had the exact same experience because Becca was sick and I went by myself.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. But it was the last day. I went the very last day at the very last like time that you could get in. And
you did it. You got it in.
I got in. It was packed. I don't know if it was
wow.
packed when you went, but like we were just like kind of shuffling along through this tiny room. I was there for like 3 hours.
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
Because I read
Yeah.
every single thing.
Yes. Yeah, no, I got there. I was like, we're first. Yeah, we were first. I was like, all the people were like, I'm trying to pay. And I'm like, I already paid. Let's go. Like, first in there. Got all these pictures. It was cool to see pictures of her, like, her ring that she cared about. It was just
Her ring that
interesting.
Kelly Clarkson purchased
Is
and
that
then had
what?
to give back.
I don't know the story. What happened?
So the ring, Kelly Clarkson, according to the placard, Kelly Clarkson bought the ring for some amount of money, and then there was like an embargo on like sending things back and forth, and everyone was like, she can't get this because she's an American, and she was like, you know what, I relinquish.
I relinquished the ring.
Love Kelly Clarkson. That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah, I was not expecting her to come up in the Jane Austen exhibit at the Morgan, but there she was.
I really missed that.
So next question, and this is kind of like a fun one. Which two Austen characters from separate books would you pair together in a modern style rom-com a la Anne of Avenue A?
Oh, from different books.
They could be from the same book, I suppose, but not canon. If you want,
Okay.
we just made this question up, so there's no rules.
I love this question. And I first started it by doing the people from our books. Then I was like, wait, that's not what they're asking. They mean from the original books. So,
But I'm also curious about the characters from your
Yeah.
books.
I would be very curious about that.
Well, then actually, we our publisher just told us to do that, and we wrote a story that's in this Jane Austen anthology coming out in November, and essentially we got to kind of do that. So we did.
Oh my God,
it.
so
It was
fun.
so much fun.
Do you know about the anthology?
I think I've seen you guys post about it, but tell me more.
So we are with 9 other authors, and or
No,
9
it's- I
authors
think-
together.
Together, yeah.
9 different amazing authors, and it's an anthology that's coming out on November 4th, and it is telling the untold stories of Jane Austen's characters, like the B characters, the side ones. Like, what's Mrs. Bates' story? We picked a character from Sense and Sensibility and played out her story, and you might just be
Yes.
going off like a line. Do you want to talk about what we did, Emily? Like, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's Eliza from Colonel Brandon's Lost Love. So, and we had so much fun with it. So I don't want to give too much away. Not that.
Yeah, no spoilers.
But honestly, all the authors, Nikki Payne, who did a bunch, who's actually The Princess and the Pie came out recently. It's so fun, and it's a Northanger Abbey kind of retelling. But she wrote one story. Yeah, there's just they're all so good. They're so good.
Really, it's amazing company.
Wow.
And it's a cool book, and it's like, it's called Ladies in Waiting.
Okay, everyone buy Ladies in Waiting November
Yeah.
4th.
I think that will be cool. Just for Jane Austen fans, it's fun.
Yeah, totally.
And
Oh wait, but they gotta answer the.
Oh, great. The question.
Oh,
yeah.
shit. Sorry.
Okay. All right. No, I do have well, I had I was thinking that I don't know if I want to put them as a rom-com. I was thinking of a Thelma and Louise type of thing. And so then I was doing Harriet Smith and Lydia Bennet. That's what I was thinking.
oh my
I thought
God.
that would be fun.
That
I
is
know.
fun.
I love that.
That is like a super bad sort of story where it's like
Yes.
two
Yes.
absolutely outrageous teenagers,
Evil.
one of whom
Yep.
is way more outrageous and an instigator for the other, just having a coming of age story over the course of a night. I would consume
Yep.
the hell out of that.
I know. Isn't that fun? So that's what I came up with.
Love it.
I love that question.
That was a good one. I think mine was I am kind of obsessed with these like we just did our sort of like George Eliot, right? He's kind of this kind of con man. And I was like, I wanted to pair him with Wickham. And I'm like, I just want these two guys to kind of be trying to con each other. And they're both just like conning. And then I always like my husband always jokes his favorite movie is Heat. And I'm like, it's such a great love story between Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. They just need to kiss. And I was like, but in this they could kiss because I think that like
Yes.
Wickham and like George Eliot could just like end up like actually they're madly in love and they run off into the sunset. But the
Oh,
whole thing is them
goodness.
conning each other because like there's these con artist men in these books, and I'm like, why don't they just find each other and con each other and go away
And then
Yeah.
kiss.
and then
And then
kiss?
And make out. Yes.
Wait, it's like that movie with Jennifer Aniston where she's a bounty hunter and then there's the other bounty hunter and they're both bounty hunting each other and they're also
And they
lovers.
kiss. Do they kiss?
Yeah.
Yes, and that's all. Yes, perfect. That's it. Yes, retelling of that. That's it.
Perfect.
I love it.
And final question before we dive right in persuasion, and it's a good segue, I think, is what's your hottest persuasion-centric take? And I'm curious if it will overlap with things I was picking up in your book.
Oh, interesting. I think mine hasn't changed. I think Freddie Wentworth is the best Austen hero. Like he's of the men. Like, yes, they're all wonderful, but if you actually had to live with someone for the rest of your life, marry them, I think he's probably the best one.
Hmm.
He is rather dashing.
Yeah, and like not requiring as much therapy maybe as the other ones.
Maybe.
Oh, I would think he requires therapy, but perhaps
yeah.
he's had to do it in the.
I think he's done already a lot of the heavy
Done
lifting,
it.
whereas Darcy's like, oh, I should
Messy.
start this now, and it's like, oh, this
Yeah.
is gonna be a long road, like
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, I love that. I guess I don't know if this is a hot take, but I feel like Persuasion is the most like sophisticated novel. There's wisdom and depth to the characters. Like I guess to have had loss and love, like losing, this love of your life, and then to have to think about it and self-reflect, it just sort of makes it inherent that you have some kind of depth characters. So I appreciate that.
I agree with that.
And on that note, I think it's a good time to start talking about our 21st century persuasion, Anne of Avenue A. As Audrey and Emily laid out before, it is an adaptation of Jane Austen's Persuasion set in the East Village around our 30-year-old Anne Elliot, who is pining after a former sweetheart. Now, I'll start by saying I devoured this. And before we get too deep into anything, I just want to say really quickly the story, and I don't think this is a spoiler because it's like the first thing that you read when you open the book. The story does start with a little flashback of them in love the first time, and it is something I have, as you've heard, been screaming that I want out of a Persuasion adaptation over and over again. And I was so thankful that I opened this book and I was like, yes, this is why I wanted this.
Oh my God, that is so good to hear because we were trying to. I think that's one thing that we agreed very early on. We were like, we have to see them when they were in love because we deserve that. I think all of us who love this book were like, we need to see them when they were young and just besotted with each other.
We had a lot of they didn't end up making it into the final cut, but we had a whole second book of flashbacks. I mean, first dates, and we wrote it all. Like we had it, and then it was like, this is getting too long.
Which is a story.
Just
What
where
story
does
are we
this go?
following?
Yeah, what are we
Yeah.
doing? So I mean, we've really developed these characters. So, and they have a real big backstory. So
And you can feel that when you're reading it. Like you can feel their history, even if it didn't all make it into the book. I think that all of that background work really informs the characters
Absolutely.
as we're reading them.
Especially with Audrey and I writing together, where it's like you want to make sure that you're working off the same backstory. So even though it
Totally.
didn't work, like it actually we both needed to do it, so it worked really well, I think.
yes.
The version that we read, maybe this didn't make it in, but I think we did see their first date. At least in he like thinks about it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what ends up happening. It just becomes little things. That's what ends
Yeah.
up happening. Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't a whole chapter.
And each time you get a flashback to them 8 years ago, you get this rich text of, what it felt like for them in the moment. And I am excited to dive really in, but I'm going to pull back because I know that Molly has created this lovely outline of questions that we have to discuss. And I was too excited because I had to just go straight in and be like, thank you for the flashback.
Yes, of course.
On a broader scale, what made you guys choose to do Persuasion following Emma and then Pride and Prejudice?
I think that was fairly early. I mean, the thing is with all these books is that Audrey and I started writing them and being like, this will be fun. And we never really thought like, this is this huge thing we're going to do and it's going to be published. It was something to keep each other sane during the pandemic. So the fact that it's grown this much is amazing. And when we talk about it, it sounds like we have this big master plan when really we don't. We're flying by the seat of our pants.
Mhm.
But I think we had always talked about how those progression of heroines was so informed. Like Emma's the perfect 20-year-old that we all are that knows everything about the world and God forbid anybody tell her otherwise. Like, it's just this unabashed confidence in herself and about the future. And Elizabeth Bennet is a bit more world wise and understands how the world works and is still hopeful, but is much more of somebody in their like mid-20s where they know what it's like to have been hurt and, and what the real ramifications of your actions are. And then Anne Elliot's kind of that final, none of the other characters that Jane wrote really, main female characters, have regrets like Anne has. Like that is someone who feels like their youth is gone and they've like they're looking back. So I think there was a wonderful arc to those three that also kind of mirrors, I think, Jane Austen herself a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Persuasion always was like, that was the ultimate, like her, kind of fan fictioning her own life a bit. Like if he
Mhm.
came back magically, and so it was a bit of that, and like, what does that look like? So yeah, I think we kind of always thought that that would be a lovely arc to these three. The other Austen books also have lovely like rhythm to them that can work together, but these three felt like they always should have kind of appeared together. So that was what we were thinking.
Well said, Emily. Thank you. That's like what she said.
So, does that mean that these three are a complete trilogy? And do you think there will be more Austen adaptations in your future?
I mean, I'd love to do all of them, but
Yeah, me too. Would love to do all of them.
we'll see. We'll see what everyone wants. But yeah,
Yeah, sure.
it might go back to just me and Audrey doing it for each other. Who knows? But they'll probably
Yeah,
exist in some way,
yes.
shape,
Well,
or
you can do
form.
it for each other, and then we'll also be in your DMs asking to read them.
Perfect.
We now interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to tell you about a show we are super excited to see and that we think you're all going to love. Bedlam, the New York based theater company known for creating works of theater that reinvigorate traditional forms, presents the world premiere of Emily Breeze's Are the Bennett Girls Okay? Adapted from Pride and Prejudice. We famously love A Sister's Tale, and this production is just that. Pushing the romances of the story to the sidelines, Breeze, an unapologetically irreverent adapter, frees Pride and Prejudice from bodiced language and mannerisms, focusing the narrative on the depth, closeness, silliness, dissonance, pettiness, and fierce protectiveness of the relationships between the Bennett women. Director Eric Tucker's production maintains the look and world of Regency England as Breeze brings its text and themes acutely up to date, re-examining romances both idealized or simply accepted as givens through centuries of canonization. Previews for Are the Bennett Girls Okay? Begin September 14th at West End Theater in New York City, and you can find the link to buy tickets on their website at bedlam.org. That's BEDLAM.org. And now, back to the show.
So, in terms of persuasion, bringing it to the 21st century, what aspects of the story do you think transcend the 19th century best? Which ones were the most important for you to bring forth in 2025?
Well, I think her struggle, like her kind of figuring out her place as a woman in, uh, and we kind of brought that to the 21st century. It's, she's sort of struggling. Our Anne is also struggling with who she is and where she fits. And, she's single also. And, what's her career? And so I think that was an important part. We wanted to make sure that that was really clear. And I think that, this kind of disillusioned television producer that we could completely relate to, because that used to be our jobs, really made sense and was so fun. So that's, I think, was something that we cared about.
Yeah. I think it was really interesting with all the female between Elizabeth Bennet, Emma Woodhouse, and Anne, that they were not that hard to modernize,
Mhm.
because I think
Yes.
like in this, I think both Audrey and I were like, wow, invisible labor having to be done by the woman that no one acknowledges. That list, wow, it's exactly the same now. Thanks, great, wonderful. Like, I think she has to carry so much of her family and it's completely taken for granted. That was one of the easier aspects again. So I think that is both great and sad, but it was made for a good story. Her character is pretty intact.
Mhm.
You mentioned that you both worked in the film TV industry. I had questions about all of the business sides of things in this because there's Anne with her film TV, but also coming from like a finance background and like hedge funds. There's Freddie with his nonprofit desires slash the corporate world and specifically hydroponics, which I know nothing about, and also opening one's own business. So I'm curious what kind of research you had to do when prepping to write all of those things. And like, I remember for Elizabeth of East Hampton, you like talked to locals of the town. So like, yeah, just what kind of preparation did you have to do to write all of those different businessy sides of things?
Can I just say, like, again, that we're not geniuses, because the whole hydroponics thing was like, I was coming to see you, Audrey, for something for some reason. And I was coming down in Newark Airport, and there were these big like advertisement things that just have big screens. And we were trying to think of a business that like Knightley would invest in because he liked green tech. And there was
Right.
this thing for like, and it had all these hanging plants that were like hydroponics. And I was like, sure, cool, hydroponics. That sounds great. That'll work. Not thinking that it would ever be anything. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, damn it. We actually have to like,
Research.
2 books later, we're like, and it was supposed to just be a little Easter egg. Like, oh, is that fun? And people will get it. And now we had to, our editor was like, well, in the first book, remember? And I was like, no, I don't, Molly. Let me know. Like, is that true? Was he great, super. So I think that thankfully my husband's very into tech. So it was like me asking him for questions. He's in green tech. So I was like, what is
Yeah,
this?
I feel like Tom was helping.
Yeah. And like, where would you do this? And where would this happen? And how is this working? And then by like the 3rd draft, and he's correcting me, and I was like, okay, whatever, it's fine. It's like, whatever. No one else is getting in the weeds with this. It's okay. But yeah, it was like, and I think we both, as far as the location, we both spent a lot of time in East Village over our New York lives. So that was pretty in there.
I lived there.
Yeah.
In the East Village of it all, so I used to go out to Long Island a lot in the summers, and East Hampton's like towny population felt so organic, and Elizabeth of East Hampton and Emma of 83rd Street is so organically Upper East Side. It is so Gossip Girl meets like the homier aspects and the sleepier aspects of the Upper East Side. This book is so East Village. The Tompkins Square Park as the center of the universe of this like has that sort of glamorous but like softer fall feeling to it. It made me think of When Harry Met Sally, which is also somewhat an East Village creation, although it has some Upper East Side pieces to it as well. But I mean, Upper West Side, sorry, not Upper East Side. But it has that sort of like New York in the fall energy that like lives most fully in the East Village. So I really appreciate the like authenticity of the New York experience. So for our listeners and your readers who don't live in New York, I actually think your books are a really good way to capture what it's like to live in New York.
Oh, thank you.
I love that. Yes.
So on that note, Anne and Freddie as a romance, what were the most essential elements of their story and of who they were as people that you thought needed to carry over?
I think the one thing that was annoying, so annoying, is that, and this is the first book where I think it really caused problems for us modernizing it, was the miscommunication and the inability to solve miscommunication. Because really, at the end of the day, like all Freddie and Anne need to do is have a conversation. Like the book wouldn't exist if they just sat down. He got there and like appeared and and was like, "Hey, do you want to talk like about how things went down?" And then they could have been over and it was done. But that wasn't what people did back then. Now people do that. Like that would not be. So I think trying to understand why they're not talking, why they have the miscommunication was tough. That was tough. But it was also impossible to tell the story without them kind of misunderstanding the motivation about why things like what happened and what caused all of that. So I think we had to kind of like we added a bit more of like what the motivation behind the breakup and things, because I think that needed to exist because the lack of communication couldn't carry it in modern times. I don't think it made it hard.
Yeah, and I mean, in Persuasion, there are class elements at play
Mhm.
really heavily. Anne is a young woman who doesn't know, she's making an economic decision when she's trying to get married. And no matter how much she loves Freddie Wentworth, she acknowledges that that's a risk she can't necessarily take in her life. And she's very amenable to people suggesting she step away. What I thought you guys did really beautifully, there was a class element to the story, certainly. I mean, Anne grows up in like a penthouse in the East Village, and Freddie grows up in Queens, and there is a class divide there. But ultimately, they have character flaws that are good qualities that each of one of them has, but they have it too much, and it clashes at a young age until they've sort of learned to get a handle when they're older. And that was a really smart way in my brain to keep them apart in a way that felt to me realistic and organic.
I think we had a lot of conversations about that too, because I think Audrey and I talking about just dating and the mess that was in New York City. And also realizing that if I had met my husband at 21, I would have absolutely messed it up. Like I would have been a horror story he told other women later. Like it would have been bad.
Mhm.
So I think that that's just what happened. We were saying with Freddie and Anne, it was just they were meant to be together. That was not the time. They needed to get a hand on who they were first and figure out that before. So they just
Yeah.
end up finding each other. And I think that's honestly the whole Jane Austen fan fiction of her own life. Like she's like, well, if he came back now, we would have been better for one another. But
Yeah, it really reads like a woman who's near the end of her life, which she was when she wrote it, who
Mhm.
had regrets and was thinking about her regrets as she was nearing the end. So it is really interesting also to sort of reflect on Anne getting sort of the hopeful ending of that. Because another thing comes through really clearly in the adaptation is the sort of disappointment of how her life turned out. Now, both in Persuasion and in Anne of Avenue A, life is not over. Life does not end
yeah.
At 30.
after your early 20s. Yeah. But I do think that there's a sense of loss in the 8 years wasted not taking the risk that you think you should have taken on a person. But I also am, I'll touch on this later as well. I really liked that I felt like Freddie had his own disappointments
Yeah.
in that time. Because the way I always read Persuasion is that Freddie comes in as a borderline revenge tale, where he's like gotten everything he's ever wanted, and he's coming back just like aged like a fine wine and ready to show Anne Elliot that he is over her and like, thumb his nose at her. But that deep down, he just was still pining for her the whole time he was achieving everything he ever wanted. And I think there's some of that in this Freddie, but also there is ways in which he strays off his own path and is lost. And I think those were, to me, some of the most interesting pieces of the book.
Well, giving the line to Anne, he's so altered I barely recognized him, is
Yeah.
brilliant on your part because she has this idea of Freddie as this like free-spirited, like, I'm gonna change the world, I'm gonna help people and not being like focused on the money of it. And then when he comes back in a suit with his like corporation and all of this, and she's like, I don't know this man. And that hits him hard.
Sorry to this man. Like she's a very much like sorry to this man moment of like,
Yeah.
yeah.
That I think that was brilliant because it takes away the like original kind of sexist, oh, you've gotten so old, like the years have worn on you thing that I feel like Persuasion does to Anne. And
Mhm.
it turns it around and even though she has disappointments in her life and she's not thrilled with how her life has turned out and he does kind of spit it back at her, she still gets the upper hand of like, you're not the person I fell in love with.
I was besotted with your Freddie Wentworth when I read the prologue and I saw this sweet college student who was just so excited about his girlfriend and like changing the world and throwing parties. And he was like a little sloppy and messy. That like is so endearing. And then I was so jarred when I got into Freddie's head and he was in a suit. I was like, no, get him out of the suit. I hate it. I hate the suit.
He hates the suit, so it's great. Like
he realizes.
Exactly. It felt so bad because I was like, that was like the power of having that first moment where you saw the Freddie that she adored and you saw the Anne that he adored together. And then you see 8 years later, she is stuck in just like a desperate situation with her career where she is so unhappy. And he comes back and by all outside measures, he is so successful, but you're in his head and you're like, that spark of that person that we saw in that first chapter is so muffled in this guy right now. And it makes for the story to be so much more interesting. But I was so upset that he was in a suit with a fancy haircut.
That's not my Freddie.
it was actually hard because like we had to like, yeah, we were like, should he have any like no, he has to wear the suit. Like we were like, he's gotta be in the suit. It was
Yeah.
we didn't want to, but I think it helped. It makes it where they end up better if you kind of destroy him
Yeah.
in the front.
You have to go to extremes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He would not have been so altered she barely recognized him outside of a
Mhm.
really, really expensive suit. And so like that was crucial, but it gave me the same feeling that Anne had in the book when she saw him and she's like,
Good.
oh God, that barely looks like him.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So, speaking of characters, because we're talking about Anne and Freddie, let's discuss some of the other characters and like how they've changed. We won't, talk about decisions they make or like things that they do, but some of the people in the book. We have Lady Russell from the original Persuasion. You've changed her to be Bianca Russell, and she's Anne's literal mother instead of like a mother figure, which changes the dynamic between them. So I'm curious about the decision to make her her actual mom.
There's a lot of dead moms in Jane Austen.
I
and
know. We
it's,
didn't want to do that.
it's a lot of dead moms, and it was,
Yeah.
and Lady Russell, in all intents and purposes, is her mom, and who's separated from Mr. Elliot. Like, it just felt like natural. It felt like too convoluted to be like it's her mom's friend, and it was just it's her mom. It's her mom.
I really liked the decision. Also, the dynamic of having Sir Walter and Lady Russell divorced was one that I thought sang with their dynamic in the actual book as well, which is two people who are ostensibly sort of raising a daughter together ish. One of them is very present, one of them is not, and they negotiate that, but there's no desire to be married to each
No.
other.
Yep.
And they don't even
Yep.
particularly like each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that was another hot take. Lady Russell's not the bad guy. Jane had autonomy in that decision to break up with Freddie. So I think that I hope this isn't a spoiler, but like we didn't want to put that all on her and be like, that was your fault. Like that's too much of an
Yeah.
easy out. So
Yeah. I did love the character of Bianca Russell. Like, she was such a badass.
I actually thought Sir Walter was the most similar to his book counterpart, almost an exact copy of his book counterpart in an unflattering manner.
in an unflattering manner. I think we had so much fun trying to think of him because we were like, what would that look like? Because we were like, well, where is he? Who is he? And when we were thinking like, well, he's got money, like in every, like, so does Emma, and so does, Darcy's character, and but some guy, he's also so obsessed with how he appears and how he looks and like wanting to be. I'm like, that guy would be my old neighbor in the East Village, like who's just like really, really holding on to being cool. Like, I know I'm really still very cool and relevant and interesting and fun and like TV producer and great, and it there was so much more wrapped up in it than just showing off money. And so I thought that the East Village thing helped a lot too. And he's also very easy to modernize. And I was like, oh, this is like half middle-aged men in the Manhattan. This is fantastic.
Mhm.
Sorry, men of Manhattan, but it's true.
Nope, it's true. It's really
It's
true.
Sorry.
Yeah, he also like would absolutely be a gentrifier. I feel like this was
yeah.
it was
Yeah.
in the beginning, like when talking about him buying his apartment, he was like, it's up and coming. Like, I'll be so hip in this neighborhood. It was like the first high rise in the area. Like, I was like, okay, this tracks. This tracks.
Yep. So then that goes to someone who's absent in the book and in Anne of Avenue A and has no siblings.
Mm-mm.
And there is a Mary counterpart in the book who is just sublime, but there is no Elizabeth counterpart. And I actually kind of enjoyed that because, well,
I mean, my note was thank God, LOL.
I know. I liked your note.
yeah, unless you wanted to count the reality TV star who drives Anne crazy as Elizabeth,
Mm.
I think it's pretty clear that Anne is just dealing with like a very laborious father
Mhm.
who's essentially ruining her life for like 6 years straight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was conscious. I think Elizabeth, I don't want to make any women be awful in the
yes,
books. Like,
that
we
was
didn't want any
why.
of the women to be like, oh God, they're so awful.
Mhm.
And Elizabeth is just awful. And I just am like, I don't like
Yeah.
you. And we're already getting what we need out of that by having, her father. So it kind of was like, we tried to, we had her in for a while. And then we were like,
did.
she slowly started like, well, maybe she's abroad. Maybe she only
Yes.
texts.
That is what happened.
Maybe she's not there.
Slowly went away.
We sent her off to sea.
She's on a boat somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
She's traveling.
Yeah, that was easy.
What about the other residents of the upper cross? Like, I want to talk about who are adaptations of characters / who are originals that you guys just made up.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone who lives in a 16-unit building in New York, the dynamic of people who have lived there a very long time, I was like, yes.
Nailed it. Great.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. Well, let's see. Do we want to talk about, Ellis Rowley and James? Like,
Yeah.
those are like our favorite. James was our favorite, I think, to write. I think that
Yeah.
was so much fun. I mean, he could have his own show,
I loved him.
his own book. I mean, he was so much fun. I think he's one of our.
And they were the Musgroves, I think.
They were the most.
right? Like,
Yes,
Mhm.
I
yeah.
think of them as Mary and Charles. Yes, that's
Definitely.
Yeah. So I think he was really fun to write, and
Low key, I kind of thought Bev was Mary.
Oh, I thought James was Mary.
Oh,
Bev.
No, what's so funny? The more than anything in this book, we started, and each character had a very specific counterpart in the book,
Yeah.
in the building. Like, Mary was Mary, and there was a Mary, and she was a mom who's like kids were sent off to like she was like could not be bothered with these children, like was just like running around, like it was just there was nanny and it was just too much. And I think we were like, what are we trying to buy here with her? And it essentially is, that everyone in his life is awful. And this more than any of the other Aunt Jane Austen books, the supporting characters bring the humor because
Mhm.
there's not the main story is sad. So we were like, okay, well, Mary is borderline child abuse here. This is not funny. So we were like, what's funny? So I think that, James and Ellis kind of became the Musgroves, but then Mary's character kind of was like, I don't know, it's just like kind of a few different characters. Bev was kind of it, but James was like was a lot worse before, and then we kind of softened him a bit, but we like kind of took and I don't know if any one person was Mary. Maybe Bev a
Yeah.
little, but then she just went funny. We just started having fun with
Yeah.
Bev because I'm like, let's
I
just
loved her.
yeah.
And I think Mary Musgrove is Jane Austen's most humorous creation. It's for
Yeah.
me, Bev captures the lack of social decorum that Mary has
Oh, I
and
like this.
social
Yeah.
awareness.
Yes.
Yes, we did that on purpose.
Whereas I think James captures that like neuroses and leaning on Anne. But
Mhm.
in James's case, it's much more endearing than in Mary's case, where it's very tiresome.
We love
but
him.
I think that I see it being split between two. But for me, like every time Mary opens her mouth in Persuasion, it's the funniest thing I've ever heard. And so having Bev, who's like a quintessential like been in her co-op in New York City since like the Stone Age person, and who is like, I just exist to be eccentric and like gather the craziest stories you've ever heard about New York City. And then also I have stopped giving even half of an iota of a shit about anything. So I'm just going to speak everything that comes to my mind immediately. It was so much fun. And I thought it captured the way in which everyone kind of had Mary around, but also was like, what is she going to say next all the time?
Yes. And it grown like a filter for it, like where everyone has like a Bev filter and they had a Mary filter, and it was like whatever comes out of
Exactly.
her mouth, like she gets away with it because we just are only half listening all the time anyway. So,
Exactly.
That's so good. And then we had Cricket as I think a pretty direct representation of Louisa.
Louisa.
Yes, yes.
She was fun to write too. We liked that was a fun character. And
Louisa always gets kind of a bum rap in the book too. It's
Yeah.
like flirty, and I was like, she's flirty and she's young, and I
Yeah.
don't know. So I think Cricket was obnoxious but really fun to write and fun
And
character.
she was so well meaning.
Yeah.
So well meaning.
She had good intentions.
I know like 8,000 crickets in real life, and they are endearing people. They are just,
Yeah.
you don't want to share an apartment with them for sure.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
I was Cricket at one point.
We were all cricket. We were all
We're all
cricket.
Cricket. That's a t-shirt.
We were all
We
Cricket.
were all cricket at one
We're
point.
all crooked. And we had so much fun, I think, too. I think this more than anything is that a lot of the characters that you're supposed to not like Louisa, even Mary to a certain extent, is like you realize half the reason they're grading is that Anne just never really tells people like, I can't do that for you, or like she never says no, and she never sets boundaries. So these people are awful, or like kind of we as a reader find them obnoxious for a lot because like, but Anne's not setting any boundaries, so we're getting like this unfiltered of everybody, and she's
Mhm.
taking it all on. So I think we were able to be like, maybe these characters aren't as bad. Well, Elizabeth was as bad, but the other people around aren't maybe as bad. We can have a bit of fun with them because there wasn't anything really intrinsically wrong with them. Mary, there's literally nothing wrong with her, even though she will tell you there is. Like there is nothing, it's
Yeah.
not fine.
Girl, you're fine.
You're fine. Have a drink. Have a gummy. You'll be okay.
Take a nap. Yeah.
Who was your favorite character to adapt?
I would say Freddie's sister. I think we both had so much fun.
Yes, 100%. I love Sophie.
Sophie.
Yes.
She was the most fun, I think.
She
we just really,
was.
really loved her.
She could have her own show.
And she's so important in Persuasion. And we're like,
Mhm.
she deserves more of a starring role. So
I feel like it was so fun to write her, and it was so fun to have this sort of, I felt like a B story of a friendship of these two girls who,
Mhm.
kind of seem a little lonely and, find each other and miss each other. Like they also had, they had this, it was 8 years of lost love, but there was 8 years of lost friendship. And that's horrible.
Yeah.
That's awful
Mhm.
for girlfriends. And so I feel like they are like, once they got kind of permission, they kind of dove in, and then it became this whole thing. And it's like, look what two women can do when they get together. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We love female friendship.
yeah, I mean, we also were saying, we're like, I think at one point we were like, maybe Sophie and Anne just end up together because like we were writing, we got
Yes.
so into that story, and I was like, that's
Yeah.
another book, but we were like, it is another love story in there of like
Yeah.
this friendship. You're right, and then rekindling that. So that was really fun to do.
And lifting each other up.
I'm obsessed with that.
Yeah, I love that.
I mean, they were also apart for 8 years pining after each other. So, like, it's not
Right.
too late.
No regrets, Anne. Go for
Never.
it.
Can have it all.
Who was the most difficult to bring into the modern era?
Honestly, I think it was Anne because it justifying her lack of like communication, and but I think it
Yeah.
was really really hard. Like I think we were hitting our head against a brick wall with like, just talk to him, man. Just like there, how do we do this? And I think once we kind of turned the corner of the motivation behind the breakup and what she was doing, I think then it flowed. But it was definitely hard to get there, I would say, because she's of all the books, you realize it's really difficult because it's so much that's happening in her own head. It's just like her thinking about stuff, and like she's got a little bit of a cattiness to her, which I think is great. She's got like a little bit, but she's also, it's all happening in her own head, and it's to be in there and also be like, but you can, in the modern times, you can talk about to people and stuff. So it's just kind of finding that hook of like, what was she doing then that made her not want to talk about it now? So we got there, but it was hard. I don't
Yeah.
know. What do you think, Aj? That's probably
I
mine.
think so. I think that's accurate. Yeah. I think she was tough. I think finding Freddie's voice took us a second, and
That's true because he's mean sometimes in
yeah, so
persuasion.
we didn't want that. We want, and he's also in, what was he think? I feel like there was a lot of discussion about him too and how he thought.
Well, he's a black box for like the first half of the book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and that's hard with I think all the books, and I love that and this is just because we wanted to hear what was going on inside their heads, but that we got to write from both people's perspective. Because in Pride and Prejudice and Emma, we don't hear from the guys. Like all we get is what they're giving out. Like that's it. Like we don't know what's going on in their head. And I think more than anyone, Freddie is like, because she's definitely not saying anything to him. So we are getting nothing from about this guy. So we kind of had to, go back and take certain things out. Like you're right. I mean, Becca, as you said, it's a little bit of a revenge in the original book, and it feels like it anyway. And we didn't want it to be a revenge thing.
No, we did try and then it didn't work. Yeah, we had it kind of like some stuff at the party and we're like, no, we don't need this. This doesn't track. We want to love our Freddie. Like, how are we going to come back from this? So
Right.
that was a little harder.
I noticed something that you guys did in order to like capture the in communication of the two characters, like you did more than in other books, is like the use of italics of like what they wish they were saying. And then you're like, as the reader, you're like, no, just say it out loud.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes. That supports what we're saying.
Yeah, and like when we were rereading, or I was rereading the book, I remember it's like sometimes I'm like, oh my god, I'm just so frustrated with you. Just like you don't say anything then, and so I don't know. Although I say that, and then the one moment of communication, the most intimidated I've ever been writing anything is having to do Freddie's letter. Like that was more than anything having to like tackle that.
Yeah.
When we pitched this to our publisher and signed it, for some reason I had completely blacked out that was something we would have to do, and then all of a sudden like
Yeah.
the responsibility of it,
Mhm.
you and I actually were like, oh God, oh my God.
Oh, there was 1,000 drafts.
You guys nailed it.
You got there.
Hopefully.
It did.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It definitely did.
I think so.
Yeah, I'm going to speak as vaguely about it as possible, but the build up and the Easter eggs up to it in the book were amazing.
Yes.
Oh, yay.
There are good Easter eggs. I will say that.
That was incredible. So going back to the New York of it all, like we said, this book is so authentically East Village. Was there a reason you guys picked the East Village for Persuasion?
To be honest, we almost did West Village.
I know, to be honest, we almost did the West Village.
We almost did the West Village, but it started sounding a little bit too much like Emma. Like it was
yeah.
just like rich, and that was like, and we needed the gentrification juxtaposition
Yeah.
bit of that,
Mm.
and Tompkins Square Park is just, it's great. I love that whole. So I think that was
I
it.
think that was it. Yeah. I feel like, and I lived in the East Village for a very long time. And I feel like we wanted like that holiday feel of sort of Union Square, but like the markets, and then you can get over to there and Arlene's Grocery and like all that, So we wanted to kind of pay homage to that area in this way. So I feel like it made sense to be part of Persuasion.
And was there a piece of New York City you're most excited to bring into the book in the East Village or just broadly? Because they also go to a lot of restaurants outside the East Village too.
I know 2 people who work at Balthazar.
Oh, that's right. It is one of my favorite restaurants. And I feel like every time I go there, I forget, oh, this is such a great place. And it's so iconic New York. And I always see a celebrity. It doesn't matter every time I go. So it's such a fun, I think, for Walter, who cares about image, to care to be there and to be like, where in New York can you be that's downtown? Are you still having that like old world feel where you want to be seen? And that felt like the perfect place. And it's, so that was kind of, we were excited to do that chapter.
Nice.
Mhm.
And I also love when we finally decided on the East Village, I was like, it's actually perfect because of all the neighborhoods in New York. It's really not an attractive neighborhood. Like it's not, like looking around and be like, wow, this is postcard level. Like it's very like it's rough and tumble.
Right.
But I love it. And I think people who aren't from New York, it's like those little like quirky elements that make it fantastic and fun are the people and like living there. But the one time it is gorgeous is when in prep for Christmas, like when they put the tree up
Mhm.
and people are in a good mood. I mean, New York in general, right? New York in January sucks. Like nobody wants to be there. It's awful. But in November, December, it's fantastic.
Perfect
It's the
place.
best.
Yeah.
So we were like, oh, that's a time to do the East Village because it actually is like really charming. And then it's just awful
Yes.
again in January. But I think that was fun to do. It's just like do that.
Well, to quote the great Meg Ryan, don't you just love New York in the fall?
It's so true.
Yes. Yes.
Bouquets of freshly sharpened pencils. Exactly.
Exactly.
It's all starting now. Mhm.
And our last question for you guys is, if you can, without major spoilers, what is the thing in this book that you're most excited for people to read?
If you've read the other books, then I think this is a wonderful culmination of the 3 stories. So I think that if you know and love the other stories, where they end up and who you end up meeting and seeing and everything is fun. So I thought, and that for us, I was like, I don't know if anybody's gonna remember any of this or care, but where they all end up at the end, I think was just really for Audrey and I think so much fun to kind of discuss and figure out and write.
I think the epilogue is amazing. And to mirror echo what Emily's saying, the end of this trilogy, the way it all comes together, if you've been reading, you don't have to, but it's just so much fun. So I feel like that was, yeah, it was really just, it was, it's kind of sad to be, finishing these. I wish we could kind of do them again. So I'm excited for readers to, who love persuasion, to figure out who's who and to feel the end of these 3 stories for us if they've read them.
I love that. And that means that all of our listeners, you heard it here first. You have to read all the way through to the epilogue.
Yeah.
You've got to do it. Sorry, guys. Gotta do
I
it.
agree. The epilogue was so much fun. I wished I was there. That's all I'll say about it.
Yep.
We always say that, like, I had to do an event with a few other authors recently, and there was at a hotel with a wedding. And like, I'm like, oh, they didn't even know what happened. And like, all of us are at this window, like looking through at this like a reception. I'm like, how creepy. But I'm like, we're romance authors. It's fine. Don't worry about us.
Getting material.
But I was like, same thing. We're like, this is all material. Like like all we do is write scenes that we wish we could actually witness in real life. And we were like totally being creepers at this wedding, but it was so sweet and lovely. And it is. It's like, what moments would you want to see? Exactly that, Molly.
Mhm.
Be at that bar at the window and be asked to leave by management. Yeah.
Obsessed.
Incredible. Well, thank you guys so much for coming back to discuss this book and also for letting us read it in advance. We absolutely loved it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. You guys are like,
Thank you for the support so much. This is a highlight.
it goes back to like before we were writing Emma, right? And we would listen
Mhm.
to you guys and be like, maybe
Yes.
they'd have us on their podcast. I remember like when Emma was like, oh my gosh, do you think we could just ask them? Could you just ask them? I don't know.
They're doing what we're doing.
The fact that you asked us again, it's just lovely. It's always a highlight. I love you guys. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh my gosh, yes. You guys are amongst like the best people to chat with and also amongst the best people to understand the stories and bring them into a sort of modern parlance. We do that, I mean, when we talk back and forth on the podcast all the time, but you guys really like, I think we all have a lot of sync about what we love about the stories so much. And so
Mhm.
it's so fun to see you guys take these, timeless tales and put them in our era and give them to us in, a new form. That's so much fun. So I Love talking to you. I love reading your books. So, do you want to tell the people where they can find you and your newest adaptation of a Jane Austen novel?
Yes, well, we are really just on Instagram these days, Audrey.and.Emily. And you need the dots because there's Audrey and Emily are a pair of sisters somewhere who have just Audrey and Emily. So make sure there's dots between them, but or follow them. They're probably lovely. So, but
Yeah.
and then Anne of Avenue K. Oh gosh, it comes out October 28th.
28th. Right before Halloween. Do pre-orders now. Just go order it.
That's 3 weeks from when this episode is airing, I think, if my math is correct. So, yeah, get your pre-order, get ready to fall in love with Anne and Freddie.
One more time.
One more time. Yeah, we absolutely loved
And
it.
thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you
Oh
guys.
my gosh. Genuinely our pleasure. Listeners, for next time, we have one more little snack of not book before we go back to book. We'll be covering Becoming Jane on our feed, and I think it's going to be a really fun episode. I think you guys are going to really like it. And then I promise, listeners, we will be starting season 5, and you will be hearing about Mansfield Park from the two of us. So until next time, stay proper.
And pre-order your copy of Anne of Avenue A. We will put the link in the show notes.
Yes.
Oh,
Thank
you
so
guys.
much. Thanks for reading.
Pod and Prejudice is edited by Molly Burdick and audio produced by Graham Cook. Our show art is designed by Torrance Brown. Our show is transcribed by SpeechDocs Podcast Transcription. For transcripts and to learn more about our team, check out our website at podandprejudice.com. To keep up with the show, you can follow us on social media at Pod and Prejudice. If you love what you hear, check out our Patreon to see how you can support us, buy some merch at podandprejudice.dashery.com, or just drop us a rating and a review wherever you get your podcasts. Stay proper.